All right, welcome everyone to the special board meeting, September 8th, and it is 5:03 p.m. Brandon, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. King,
Here.
Ms. Sebastian,
She's been waiting.
Ms. Mansfield,
Here.
Mr. Elam,
Here.
Ms. Sebastian is present. Ms. Reese is absent.
Running late.
Running late.
Absent from the roll call, but she's on her way. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us as we do the final presentation for the architects with regards to the building of our new school and stadium. Turn it over to Mr. First.
Just to give a quick recognition of the folks that we have in attendance this evening, for those of you that could not be here physically. We have Todd Bird in attendance. He is our maintenance supervisor. Danny Elam, school board member. Chris Mills, facility committee member. Caleb Runkle is zoomed in. He's a facilities committee member. Lida Mansfield, board member. Justin Firk, superintendent of schools. Brennan Hattery, treasurer of schools. Jacob King, school board president. Lori Sebastian, board member and also facilities committee member. Rick Gilbert, facilities committee member. I hit everybody. Okay. First on the agenda this evening is the firm of Garmin Miller, and I will turn the floor over to Mr. Eric Baltzell. Thank you for being here this evening.
Yeah, thank you for giving us this opportunity. We are Garmin Miller. My name is Eric Baltzell. I'll be the principal in charge. We brought this group today. We thought it was important that you see this is your team. This will be your team from start to finish. And throughout the presentation, I'm going to make introductions, and each one's going to talk about their particular specialty and what they bring to the project. So we've been following your project for this past year since we met with you last year. And there's three common themes that we see in the board discussions and the different material we've looked at and heard from you. One is the rapid growth. That's obviously the driver of this project. You're seeing significant growth. You foresee that being carrying into the future. Secondly, fiscal responsibility. It's important to you to be wise with your district funds and use them appropriately. And third is the community engagement, something we hear continually. You want to have transparency with the community. You want to make sure they're informed. You want to get that feedback from them and include them in the process. And I know some of you on the board, that was so important to you. That's part of the reason you ran for the board. So we're very conscious of those things, and we're going to be acting on those things throughout the project, knowing those are important to you and following through on those things. So I appreciate the 9 questions you sent out. In our presentation, we're going to be covering the 9 questions you had, those topics, and certainly at the end, we can answer any questions for clarity. Sorry, I think I skipped one there. This is an ELP project with OFCC, which we have a lot of experience with the expedited local partnership program. And a key piece in that is making sure the plan that you have that you're submitting to OFCC is accurate. And it's really important when you move into phase 2 that all those numbers are accurate, all that information was accurate. So you don't want to get yourself in a bind down the road with anything that maybe wasn't caught. And with that, we have a member of our team, Wayne Coleman, who spent 14 years at OFCC, so he knows the program very well. He's helped over 150 districts through planning and through various programs. So I'll turn it over to Wayne.
Thank you, Eric. As Derek mentioned, we want to go through an evaluation of the information that has been gathered to date, specifically what has been provided by OFCC. We have enrollment. We would like to get that verified, get it the most current, make sure that we've got that locked in. The building assessments, we did a quick review of the assessment information. There's a copy of the master plan as well. We did find some questionable areas in that of what they use for assessment numbers. Now, realizing that is part of the second phase, not necessarily what you're going to be doing under the expedited program, but it's important that we get that kind of information documented. So if there were challenges to that, and by example, in the assessment, we found a couple of items that were, again, that really stuck out. Plumbing wasn't very much of a change between 2013 and 2019. But site condition really threw us. That was just shy of $1 million cut on your budget for that. So along with that, we also are looking at the master plan. For example, in the master plan, there are two areas in there that they applied a $300,000 site safety and access allowance. One is for the new K5, and the other is for the K12, the 712 that would become 612. And those two site safety allowances, that's important. But depending on maybe where that PK5 is located on your site, especially if we go to the north and we use the side road plus 201, we would argue for an additional site safety access. I've been successful with that. It's rare, but when you make an offer of an argument, they sometimes listen. So the objectives here are really to properly correct the budgets. If necessary, we will work, and I will work as your liaison with the state. I still have a good reputation with them, and know a lot of the people there, and was involved in a lot of the policy that came about for the expedited program back in the day. The other important piece that we really want to hone in on is to enhance your reputation. It is an excellent reputation here at Bethel, and we want to make sure that we are able to get all of the numbers on the table correctly and have it well documented, so that when we do go into that second phase under the funded program and you receive credit, we want that documentation in place. I think that's critical and that's important. So this is not to overhaul your master plan. That's already been set. We're going to build PK5, we're going to do your stadium. But it's making sure that the second part falls in line with that. So that's what we're going to do. And as well, we're going to communicate the project. So bear in mind, we're not saying we're going to just come in and overhaul everything. We're just going to come in and verify.
Yeah, and that verification process, it's a quick process. We're talking a couple weeks to get that verified. So the first phase here is the K5 and the football stadium. We know that you've went through a number of options. You've looked at a variety of places where you could locate the building, where you could locate the stadium. So we're not going to go through that process again, but we did look at the site, look at your property, and we have some ideas of things that we just want to look into a little further, that we want to research a little more. And leading our site design is Kathy Trejo.
Hello. So, like I said, we don't need to make you revisit all the options that you've already looked at. But what we would like to do is take a really quick look at verifying everything that is on the site to make sure it all works. For one, you have a lot of acreage, so it's really a lot of opportunity to, as long as it's properly planned, you can plan ahead for the future and plan ahead for all that expansion that you need and all those future students that keep coming in. There should be plenty of room for that. But some of the things that we do want to look at, as we mentioned, the access. So access from 201, we've been told that there may be limited cuts allowed by ODOT, possibly only 2, one every 570 feet. So that's something we want to look at very early to see if that is something that we need to stick to, as well as limited options for coming in off of Broad Road. And then we also want to make sure that your budget can cover any road improvements that need to be happening on those public streets as well, any turn lanes or anything like that. We want to get your soil tested once we have better feel. Is there rock problems like you've seen in the past? Take a really good look at that. And then what you're seeing here, the area of land that is not highlighted as wooded, you still have about 110 acres, even if you weren't to touch the woods. With your current student population, you need about 88 acres to support that. So you can see you have enough acreage left over with proper planning to support a couple thousand more student expansion. It's just a matter of planning for it. But one of the other things that we then were concerned about is if you can see the darker blue areas, we talked to a wetlands consultant that's local to our area and just asked them to take a look at us with us concerns. And with their resources and their best educated guess, they're saying that this is possibly prime wetland area, so we want to take a really early, quick look at that. If it is, you have two avenues. You can either disturb it or not, or disturb less than 300 feet of it. If you disturb it, then you're looking at regulatory agencies that extend your schedule and also add to your budget. And if you don't disturb it, then you can just see that we would just be looking at, a more of an L-shaped site that we would want to deal with and just stay away from it. So those are some early decisions we need to go through.
Yeah, so those are all things that we can work through, and it's not advancing. Thank you. So one of your questions was about our approach to the design process and how do we engage with you and the community. We know that's important to you, and we will be continually communicating with you, giving you updates as a board, but also your community. And to give you an overview from pre-design through all the way to construction, we have our project manager who will be leading the team, be your point person for a little.
Thanks, Eric. So I will be your point person. I will be here from the beginning all the way to the very end of the project with you and helping you go through the planning, the very early planning process, going through some visioning, meeting with any of your interest groups that you have. Then when we get into design, we really get to start having those meetings with your staff, really being able to look at those spaces and being able to have those meetings so that your staff understand what it is that they should expect from a project when you're using OFCC dollars. And then also being able, we'll also give updates then to your board along the entire way. Do you want to just take, you got control again? Okay.
Thanks.
All right, just making sure. Oh, you did that?
Yeah.
Should we just take the mouse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry. I probably because I let someone in. That's why.
There we go. So we will be with you from beginning to end and helping you along the process and then informing you and your community, your board, all along the whole way.
We'll just use this for.
Okay, sorry about that. So the communication piece, we know is very important, and we have a full communications team in-house that has graphics capabilities and can help you along the way. And leading our communications team is Doug Rentz.
Thanks, Eric. As Eric said, I'm Doug Rentz, and I manage our communications, marketing, and graphic design team at Garmin-Miller. What does that mean for you guys? Think of, you guys have the hive here, but we're like your hive back there in Minster. Right? Yeah. So our job is to make sure that your community is being informed as well as engaged. And so we know that how much of a milestone moment this is for you as a board, but it's also a very exciting time for the community as well. So how do we do that? We do it first by establishing a solid and strategic communications plan. So with that is, number one, an identifiable objective that we can all recite. It's easy, it's simple. What do we want to achieve? Number two, what are our key messages? What do we want to convey to the public? And in turn, how do we establish ways that we get feedback from the community as well? Then we look at your branding items, your external identity. What visuals do we want to show? Now, these are all tools that you will have access to with us at Garmin-Miller. You can use us as little or as much as possible. One way that we have been successful in our partnering districts was creating a website. It's a tab off of your main website. And as designs come, everything that you'll hear today from concept to completion, we'll load all that content every day, weekly, monthly. We will also work with you on the messaging of that. So we make sure it's clear, so you don't want to hear a staff member says something, a board member says something, the architect says something, and all of a sudden, a member of the community raises their hand and says, what am I seeing? Like, I'm hearing two different things. We will ensure consistency across the board. You see the social media channels there? Those are channels that Garmin Miller is on, and also ones that we manage for partnering districts. So if you would like any assistance and guidance in social media, content development, how to really engage and incite, how to increase, your likes and drive people to that homepage, we have access and experience to do that. So with that, I'll turn it over to another key piece of engagement, and that is educational visioning with Becky.
He gets really excited on some of this.
I do.
I get really excited about this part of the project. I'll just stand up here for a minute, but educational visioning, as Doug was just talking about, is really our first touch point with your community, your students, your teachers, a process that we use to kind of understand what your priorities are, what your vision is, and really start to figure out how we shape the building to meet those priorities. We'll go through kind of an outline process of a few different work sessions where we're facilitating those and really trying to gather that information in a few different exercises. Of course, we'll bring ideas, we'll try to explore different concepts and things with your whole community, but what we're trying to figure out is what makes Bethel unique and how our design solution kind of matches that, right? So this is not a cookie cutter approach, but we are trying to make sure that we're supporting your students, your teachers, providing space for a variety of activities, and that means community-based, as well as education and all the activities that your students would be participating in. And making sure we're thinking long-term, right? These buildings are going to last decades, so how can we be as flexible as possible and making sure they can adapt long-term? And most importantly, inspire and encourage your entire community to just really buy in and get behind this new building and this process. So these are a few snapshots. I'm talking with my hands again in that picture on the left. But just a few different ones from some sessions just to give you a feel for what this process looks like. I like to point out that top right photo. At that table, we've got a student, a couple teachers, a board member, and a principal, all sitting around kind of hashing out some different ideas and talking about what works and doesn't work at their current building. And like I said, this does not, we like to use this process to find out what's unique to your school district. And the solution does not look the same for every district by any means. This is Fostoria High School, and they really needed a space to flex for kind of informal student gathering as well as instructional space. This is New Bremen Local Schools. They had a great community partner who really wanted to use this as a community space for training with a different company or offer that to different businesses. So a really flexible space up front, more public face of the building. And this is Liberty Center, where this school district was really wanted to make sure that the performing arts were included in the project, but didn't necessarily have the budget to fund that whole freestanding auditorium. So we combined the cafeteria and the auditorium space to really flex all those seats pushed back, and it's their day-to-day cafeteria for their school. Same school district, but in this this hallway, we basically just wanted to steal a little bit of square footage to allow, I think it's 8 classrooms open up onto this small extended learning area. So it was really flexible. It's reconfigured different every time I've gone in there, and it really maximized that space without a lot of square footage. We take all of that information and move on to the next phase.
Yeah, so we got a good understanding at this point of the program that you need and with the spaces that you need, and that's when our lead designer comes in, Bruce Miller, who is also one of our founding principals.
I'm the old man in the room, it's not a lie. So as we get to this point in the project, this is West Carrollton. This is when we work closely with your facilities people. We work closely with the board, the teachers, and the students. The goal here is to position things properly where you're comfortable with it. Maybe you want extended learning areas, maybe you don't. It's how's your teaching curriculum going to look when we're all finished with this project. So here I'll also it's important to me to make sure our mechanical systems are in places that are the most economical to serve the structure. I'll bring our engineers in and we start talking before we start putting too many lines. What makes sense? What's the most efficient? What's the easiest long-term for them to maintain this facility? And we'll go through many options of those. And there's no right or wrong. It's just what fits you the best as we move forward. So it's a fun process. It's very interactive. Laura and myself and Doug will work closely together, making sure that information gets out to the public. I don't want to surprise anybody. And as we look at that, we also will look at your site. What's the pros and cons of each site layout? I know you've done a lot of them already, but let's just make sure we're going down the right road here and everyone's on the same page. And from the site, then we'll start going three-dimensional with our BIM design. And this is where you really start understanding the project and what it can do for you and your community.
Yeah, and you can see the arrows on here showing you site circulation. That's another important aspect from a safety standpoint, is making sure all your circulation is separated between bus traffic, parent drop-off, and those type of things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I know Bruce mentioned BIM, and for that, it's building information modeling is what that BIM stands for. And that's basically taking the entire building. It will be in 3D from start to finish. And basically everything that we're adding into that as we're moving forward with the design, it all gets put into their 3D, the mechanical systems, everything that's going into that. So that you are able to see as that is going along. It helps us make better design decisions and helps be able to show you clearly what we're looking at. And you can make better design decisions as well.
And what's unique with this, as we do go through this process, our interior people are designing what's going in the room as we're designing the room. Our mechanical people are telling us, Bruce, you only need 9-foot ceiling or 10-foot ceiling here. You don't need 12. Then we could lower the whole structure by 2 feet, saving you, $800,000. And it wasn't a tough decision, but those are the things that we offer that I don't think anyone else does in the industry. We have all these disciplines in-house. So we meet literally daily on this stuff and we communicate.
And then the nice thing is we bring these images, the model, we bring them to the meetings with your staff. Not everybody can understand 2D flat drawings. Some people just don't get it, how that looks, how that comes up in 3D. But you take an image like this, and then we can also bring the next layout, and now how's that change the teacher being able to use that space if we change the furniture? It really helps it go really fast with people being able to understand. So we use, this is our Endscape. Actually, if you look over here at the other TV. So Becky is actually on the other side, and she is looking at this live, going through the model that we have. We can instantly be able to change a material and see it live. Really be able to look at those spaces, see how they feel, and be able to modify. It's a great tool.
So that communication piece we've been talking about, we do this a lot for districts, go to every board meeting and do a run through of the building model that the public gets to see. Also, we can utilize the software tied to this, BIM 360. We're doing this for Miami Valley CTC. The owners are able to get in, see this at any time they want, do reviews, check the documentation. So it's a great communication tool.
Yeah, Miami Valley, the superintendent's better at this than I am. He just flies through it. He spent hours looking at it, honestly.
Hey, Bruce, he's not the only one who spends hours looking at it. Anytime we put a fly-through video on social media, I mean, the comments and shares and likes and excitement, so they generate a lot of buzz.
And then as we're bringing the whole building up in 3D, then we also come back and look at the site again and how has the site updates. Looking at those, you can now see the playground. Whereas before, the very first picture was very schematic. Now you're seeing those updates. And so this is Fostoria Schools. This is the rendering that we did from our BIM 360, from our BIM model. And this is an actual photo. So there's very little difference between the two. It's very realistic. And then that board, we had a board that the school district took to every community meeting that they had. Got pretty tattered, but it was very realistic as well. They were able to see, and they're not surprised, by what they have here.
An added benefit to the 3D modeling is on the engineering side for better coordination, and leading our engineering team is Andrew Hills. Thanks, Eric.
So yeah, just like Becky and Bruce and Laura just said, not only is BIM and 3D modeling a great tool for communicating all those different design concepts and cool options, but it's also awesome for us on the system side for all the in-house coordination that we have to do in designing these building systems. So contractors are actually starting, you can see the high level of detail and time that we put into these models, and contractors are actually directly building from a lot of these models now. And what we found is, we're reducing rework conflicts in the field, and ultimately for you guys, it's reduced change orders and faster construction times over time. And we're pretty proud of our sustainable design, and you can see some of the statistics there, but we have a lot of experience getting school districts through the LEED program. You guys are going through an OFCC program here, so LEED version 4 will be a requirement for your project. That's the latest and greatest version of LEED. We have a lot of experience with it. But not only is it about getting that plaque and going through that process, but a lot of those sustainable design features, we're pretty proud of, especially, minimizing the operation and maintenance costs of your systems. LED lighting comes to mind. Selecting those HVAC systems is very important. And additionally, how do we maintain that optimal classroom learning environment with, the lighting and acoustics and such. And then another thing, one of the items that Eric had on his list there, number 9, was talking about total cost of systems, total cost of ownership. And this is a great example of what we did at Greenville City Schools when they were going through their construction or design process. And we evaluated 7 different HVAC systems, not only on an initial first cost, but how much utility costs and maintenance costs are going to be associated with the systems, and help their school board make a decision on the system that was best for them.
Yeah, and this is a real collaborative effort as well with your maintenance team, because we can give you the most efficient system in the world, but if they're not comfortable maintaining it and working on it, you're not going to realize those savings. So it's definitely a collaborative effort there.
System complexity plays a big role, right? So continuing that total cost of ownership theme, not only are we going to optimize those building systems that are in your building, but we also have experience with some renewables outside. And this is a great picture of a Vantage Career Center. A solar field went in with that project around Van Wert. And then we have experience with applying other renewables to several other school building projects. And then finally, this is a good shot of the data analytics service that we have started offering here recently. And what this can do is just sit on top of your building's temperature control system, and it collects data and just produces these simple scorecards of how your systems and your equipment's operating. And we can use this data, to stay engaged with your building operators after this building has become occupied, to really help get those systems dialed in.
Yeah, we want to be a long-term partner with the district, and we'll work with your maintenance team after you're occupying the building, making sure the systems get optimally tweaked so you're seeing the best savings possible. Something I don't think any of us thought we'd be dealing with is the pandemic, and with that, we have to maybe think differently about design and how does that impact us, that we want to be best prepared in the future. Some things that we see districts considering is more outdoor learning areas. There's some things you can do to your air handling systems, whether it be through ionization filtration. There's also some UV options. Water coolers, maybe that's more of just a bottle filler type water cooler. And just thinking through finishes and the materials in your building so that they're easy to clean and most effective against that. And a lot of these things we've heard about through a series of superintendent roundtables we've had over the last few months. We've invited superintendents from around the state, really just to have a discussion. They talk about how each one is handling the reopening, things they're trying to do to their buildings to be best prepared. So we'll bring some of those ideas to the table when we're going through the design. We know safety security was an item on your list, very important, and important to all districts in today's world. And being a full service firm, we do have engineers in-house that are focused on the safety security side, and they're working hand in hand with architects because it is a holistic approach. We have to have those secure entrances. We have to think through the hallway configurations for the active shooter situations, that they're designed in a way to deter those as best possible. But we really want to have input from your local fire department, law enforcement, school resource officer, work as a team to find what's the right combination of things for your district, because you know there's different things you can do with cameras, access control. We want to have their feedback to get the right design for you. So we want to just go through some quick examples of projects. I think they'll demonstrate our ability to manage cost, to manage schedule. We have worked on over 100 elementary projects since our founding almost 30 years ago. One that I think really relates to you all is the one we're working with right now, Southwest Licking Schools in Columbus. This graphic is showing you that they're the 4th largest in the Columbus area as far as growth. They're seeing 150 additional students per year. They hired us for a district-wide fix. So that included 2 new buildings and renovations to 4 existing buildings. This is their 4-5 elementary building that they will be moving into this December. We have still over $400,000 left in contingency. So the team's done a great job of having minimal change orders and managing the budget, as well as on their high school project that has a summer move in next summer. We still have over $1 million in contingency left there. So what that means for the district is they can add in some of those wish list items, or they can just realize that savings back to them. This site plan will kind of show you how they're handling the growth. The building to the north is the 4-5 building, and the south is the high school. The 4-5, we did design it a little bit bigger than they needed, knowing that it would be filled probably by the time it's complete. They'd have the enrollment. And they committed that, hey, if that gets filled, we'll just build another elementary. That was the approach they wanted to take. But as far as the high school, they wanted to have provisions for additions in the future. So something that really needs to be considered is your 4 spaces. Is your kitchen or your service utilities, are they sized appropriately for the ultimate number you want to get to? And so we did upsize the core. And the academic wings down to the bottom right, you can see the yellow rectangle. That's where the academic additions can go in the future.
Lima Bath Elementary, I just wanted to touch on here briefly that using the BIM program, working hand in hand with the CM, doing the estimating, the BIM model gives you exact quantities. It gives you exact doors. It gives you exact number of CMU block in the building, the brick. So here's just a quick example of saving $300,000 on going through the BIM model with our in-house staff. We found that they were overestimating the amount of CMU needed for the project. So it was just an error on their part, but working together with the CM, we were able to make good sense out of it and save them money. In Elida Elementary School, this is under construction today. We've had a good bidding climate. We were able to add 4 additional classrooms onto this through project funds during the process of going through it, not having a lot of change orders and so forth. And this is under construction today. At Greenville K8, this is just an example of a mistake that was made in the field. We had a big box, 600-yard box, basically, and we had corridors tucked onto it. Well, when they put the foundation in, it was 6 inches off. So as they started erecting the steel, I'm out there on site, and all of a sudden I see this beam sticking out of the block about 2 inches. I'm like, well, what's going on here? Something's not right. So we got the surveyor out there and figured out the foundation was off. Well, we couldn't tear the foundation out and start over. So we took the little steel we had up, down, redesigned it, put it on top of the foundation like it was supposed to, and finished the project with no additional cost to the owner. But we communicated that with the board. When you're looking down length of a football field, you can't see 6 inches. So it worked out great that we happened to be on site and we found the problem before they had all that steel erected, and it would have been a big problem at that time.
And so a very important piece in your project is the stadium, and we have a designer that's solely responsible for that with a lot of athletic design experience, and that's Brian Will.
Okay, I'm going to stand back here because I'm afraid I might put the graphic that we got here is just an example of our athletic experience. The school districts that we've worked with over the years, a lot of different scopes, a lot of different budgets. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to narrow that down to our football stadium projects. And here's our most recent projects with 2 of these actually under design right now. Southwest Licking, and Shelby City Schools. So I want to take a moment just to talk about Shelby City Schools because the scope of that project is very, very similar to your project. Okay, they've got the K8 building and the stadium project. Okay, sounds pretty familiar. The stadium project, their current football stadium is downtown, and they're going to be moving it over here in conjunction with building the new school. Okay, the scope of work on that stadium, the scope of work that you all created is about identical. Your scope of work, as we see it, is here, and it's about identical with the Shelby. And the one thing that we're going to do, if we're given the opportunity, is we're going to go and we're going to take this scope and we're going to review it and make sure that it matches up with the budget. Okay, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked yet. Okay, like for instance, the one thing that we didn't see was like long jump, high jump, shot disc, and things like that. So we're going to be asking those questions, and if we ask those questions in a vacuum, and the budget doesn't go with it, we're not going to be successful. We need to make sure that those questions that were asked, we're also taking the budget and removing it with it. There's going to be some hard questions that we need to ask. Okay, one of them is artificial turf versus regular grass. That's one of the questions. We ask some questions and we do this, maybe the turf is affordable. That's what the direction might be. So as long as we marry those two together, okay, the athletic project is going to be successful. One of the advantages that we're going to have is those two projects that we currently have under design, they're going to be pretty short. Okay, so we're going to have updated costs on bleachers, football field lighting, and even the field turf. Okay, so that's going to give us an advantage when we're going through the process of asking these hard questions to be able to update the estimate, update the budget, and get the best project. Excited to work with you on the athletic project.
Yeah, so important as all the design process is, it's just as important to follow through on the construction administration. So the person out on the site reviewing the work is going to be a key piece for you. We thought you should meet the person that will be on your project, will be Jason Schroeder.
Appreciate it, Eric. So I will be on site, so I get all the fun stuff. I get actually be with you from the first shovel of dirt all the way till the last desk. My main goal is to make sure that what you and our team put together on paper, on drawings and specs, is exactly what's built out there in the field. And the biggest way to do that is communication. I will be on site every week, meeting with whoever is in charge of your team, along with the CMR, to make sure the schedule's on. Make sure the schedule's on schedules correct, and that if there is any items that come up, that they're addressed right away. I will be going ahead and doing field reports like you see above, sent out to you weekly, showing pictures of what's being done, and also let you know what the schedule is for that week and the following week and what issues are raised.
In a lot of districts like that it's put on your website so the public can see what's going on and they can see the progress without having to be on site. Some districts don't like that, but we've had good success with the districts that enjoy that.
We know another question was the project management, construction management, who we've worked with. We've got extensive CMR experience across the state, so we work with a lot of different CMRs. In your region, some of the common ones that we see the names pop up, Shook is one, they're in the Dayton area. I believe they were on your high school project, so you may be familiar with them. Gilbane is another that we see often in the area. They're on the Miami Valley CPC project. Peterson's another CM. But the key thing is we want to be a part of that process with you. When you go through the CMR selection, we'd like to sit down, offer up our feedback of what we've seen from different ones, what some excel at and other issues we found, really to help you, guide you, giving you our feedback so you make the right choice for you as to who should be the CMR in the project. And then just kind of wrap up, I believe that we're a great fit for your project. This couldn't have come at a better time for us. The team that's going to be on your project is the team that's on Miami Valley, which is under construction. So Laura and the design team is ready for another project. We're going to take that same approach that we did at Miami Valley, that the whole key is listening to you, what your needs are, and delivering them.
I think we've done a good job of getting a great team together. Our key element was making sure people were listening to each other. And Garmin Millrace itself, they come in, we have great conversations, and to see our students actually see their acts come together and make sure that we are actually getting a good product.
So that's Dr. Valley speaking.
In finishing up, what's important to our firm is providing exceptional service, creating a quality design that you're proud of, the community's proud of, and that your staff can functionally use. Doesn't do us any good to give you something that's beautiful and the staff's not able to utilize every square foot. So that's definitely a goal. We always want to make sure that at the end of the day, we're meeting your expectations. You know, we do a lot of projects this size. We like good clients that are respectful of us and we're respectful of them. So we'll make a point to be a strong player, start to finish. Just a little bit on our metrics. This is showing change orders are less than 0.5%. That's pretty accurate. We get the mine as well these days as we get towards the end of the project and they want to add scope. That's basically done by change order. So I think we're actually a little better than that. We've not missed a schedule. I think that's due to in-house services that we provide with all our engineering and so forth. We've not had any claims since we've been in business. We've made mistakes. We paid for mistakes, but when we make a mistake, we're going to get with you. We're going to find the solution. We're going to fix it, and we're going to move on. It's not going to be in the front page of paper and all that stuff. We're just going to get it done and move on, and we go on to the next thing, construction. Construction is always changing and dealing with a lot of players. So,
yeah, I think that's one of the things we're most proud of. The no claims lawsuits in our 30-year history. Not many firms can say that. Like Bruce said, things are going to come up in construction. The key is addressing them right away in a timely manner and getting it corrected, coming up with a solution timely. Becomes a bigger problem when you let it drag out. Our promise to you through this is we are going to be good stewards of your project funds. We are going to make the best use of your dollars. We're going to deliver on that community engagement support. The communication with you as a board will be there at every board meeting. We'll be continually every week giving you updates. We'll give you access to that BIM 360, so you're always seeing how the project is progressing, and we're always there to answer your questions. And as we design, we're going to be thinking about those long-term operation and maintenance costs, make sure those are as low as they can be, giving you the systems that you can maintain, and the design of a building that's safe and secure for your students, your staff, and your community, and through the whole thing, honoring the tradition of Bethel. So with that, I thank you. Welcome any questions.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation. At this time, I'll open it up for any questions from either board members or facility committee members, Mr. Baltzell or any of the members of Garmin Mill.
This is Jacob, for those out there watching live. The first question is, how far away are you from here?
40 miles.
40 miles. And the second question I have is, on average in the last 24 months, what has been the overall fee associated with utilizing your service?
Well, for a project of this type, I can tell you a range is usually 6.5% to 7.5% of the construction cost. That's pretty typical with an OCC project. The reason I say a range, we'd want to talk with you, like, what's your expectation for how often we're out on site? How much do you envision our communication team being involved? Those would factor into, deciding what the final percentage would be.
Thank you.
As far as the mileage, I live 6 miles to the north.
Thank you.
You were talking about one school had $1 million savings.
Yes.
How can a wish list be incorporated in a building that's almost completed? I noticed that you just kind of stuck a box on the end of it. But how can you incorporate it before it's completed?
Well, there are a number of things, whether it be with furniture or outdoor added, you gotta remember that's the high school that's still almost a year out. So it's still a lot of opportunity. I mean, the walls are up, but they're still in the process of painting a lot of the walls. But we are, I'll speak for Wayne a little bit, we're advocating for them because they are seeing that kind of growth. They're trying to get OCC to help pick in additional dollars. They're making the case that we're seeing that exceptional growth where OCC at times will come back in and fund. Really what they're trying to get is that addition put on before the building's done, which would add another $5 million. So we keep working on it with the state. It's hard to get them to go along with it. You know, we're making the case, but yeah, we're trying to make that happen.
Something I was thinking was very interesting at the very start. We checked their assessments. We had some challenges to the assessment. We called OCC, got the planning manager and her boss in, and we actually physically walked the buildings. We pointed out where we thought the assessment was weak. At the end of that process of covering all those buildings, we received additional $4.6 million from the state. That was all state money. That was just the state share.
And those are items that were missed in the state assessment, and that just reemphasizes why it's important to make sure those assessments are accurate, because we do relatively often find, even if they're minor, errors within the assessment.
Question, if you can talk a little bit about in the COVID environment, what have you done for those community sessions? Like, how are you running those to be able to have that same impact that you can have when we can all get together and sit around a table in the same way we used to? How do you do that now?
Pretty much how you're doing it here. It's a combination of face-to-face for those that are able, but giving a provision through Zoom, Microsoft Teams. We're doing that now with West Carrollton. Communication and staying informed is very important to them. So we have weekly meetings with them, and they're set up usually on a Teams format. And there are people that aren't able to attend, and so they're logging in virtually, and we're making sure that they're part of the process. But I mean, it is a challenge. It's new to all of us, but we find ways through the technology to keep them included.
Very funny. Their Southwest Virginia High School, we're actually going through their furniture selections and that whole process. And that was starting in spring, right when everything kind of fell through. So those meetings that we really rely on meeting with teachers and students and administration face-to-face options that we're able to do. So they set up a series of Google Forms and surveys and ways to really get that feedback from all the people anywhere they were really quickly and kind of set up those meetings like here to summarize and talk through. So just kind of figure out what the best vehicle is so we can back and put that.
And you feel it's been fairly comparable compared to what you're used to?
Yeah, I like
what you
got
expect to
that
get.
method for that exact example. I would say we got really great feedback. The people were able to kind of sit down and really give us some really thoughtful responses that helped. And I think it even might have streamlined that process a little bit because rather than trying to have a lot of sessions with the different students, you're able to kind of get feedback directly and the right one. That was just kind of good.
This is Julie. I just have a question about the safety and security. I know you mentioned that you have a big staff and a lot of experts in covered areas. Do you have a safety and security person on staff, or how do you design that?
Well, we have technology and electrical engineers, so they understand the access control systems, the camera systems, security systems. From that standpoint, we don't have necessarily like a person with a law enforcement background, if that's the question. But we do have people that are experts in the technology field of understanding how your door access controls, your cameras, your security systems all go together. But that's why we want to engage with your local law enforcement. They're the experts. So combination of us knowing the systems and them knowing how their processes work here locally, I think is the best approach.
Any other questions?
I do want to mention that for those in the room, what we have here is this is a supplement to our presentation, customized for Bethel. So this is specifically for you. And then we also have founded our copies of the presentation. I'll leave a couple with Justin if you need some. So, but no, it's been our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you all. We really do appreciate the opportunity to present to you.
We appreciate you being here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. I think this is good right here. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody out there watching live on YouTube, we're gonna pause streaming while we transition to the next firm.
Thank you. Thank you very much.